We begin tonight with a very unexpected development in American politics. The top Republican in Congress has flunked Politics 101 in public really badly and mostly on tape. The whole ball game for the elections this year is whether or not voters will see them as a referendum on the Obama administration or whether they will see them as a choice between Democrats, the Obama administration, and Republicans. If it's a referendum just on President Obama, then anything the American voter isn't happy about right now, hold it against Obama and the Democrats. Elect Republicans by default. I'm hot. I have poison ivy. I hate the BP oil spill. Throw the bums out. Could be anything. That, of course, is the dynamic that Republicans are hoping to ride to big majorities, or at least big gains this November. That's the dynamic Republicans want, the referendum on the Democrats. What Democrats want for these elections is that voters don't approach them just as a referendum on one guy or one party, but rather as a choice between the two parties. The way opposition parties try to make an election more like a referendum and less like a choice is to not talk about what they, the opposition, have to offer in terms of policy. It sounds cynical, but it is tried and true. When you're in the opposition, you don't throw your policy ideas out there to get picked apart. You don't have to. That's the one great thing about being in opposition. You just hope when the other guy gets booed, you get ushered in as his replacement, regardless of what crazy stuff you believe in. That's Politics 101. It is cynical, and I realize it sounds that way, but that really is how politics works. And that's why Republican Senate candidate, for example, Sharon Engel in Nevada, who's running against Democrat Harry Reid, that's why Sharon Engel, for all of the political missteps she has made, for all of the amazing things about her as a candidate, that's why Sharon Engel says stuff like this when she's asked about her positions on the issues.
He is trying to make this a campaign about me. But where's Harry? Go
but
ask
your own
Harry.
Website calls...
Please go ask Harry about the EPA and why they have failed.
And why you want to eliminate it.
Why they have failed to do what they needed to do in the Gulf.
Don't ask me about my totally indefensible position on the EPA that I don't want to talk about. It's about the other guy. Ask about the incumbent. This isn't about me. It's about Harry Reid. That's the way you do it. You don't want to talk about how you are. You want to talk about the incumbent that you want voted out. That's what it means to be an opposition politician. Good job, Sharon Engel. Textbook work there. Lots more to say about Sharon Engel later in the show tonight. Republicans in the Senate have also done this opposition politics 101 thing pretty well. If you notice, they're never really for anything. They don't introduce real amendments. They introduce symbolic, gimmicky amendments about stuff like Viagra and porn. I mean, Senate Republicans have this thing down to a science. You keep the focus on the party in power. You don't draw attention to yourself. When people don't like how things are going in the country for any reason, it ends up being a vote against the party in power, and the opposition just gets voted in. Just keep your head down. Don't draw fire. That's how they do it. Republicans in the Senate are good at it. Republicans in the House, under the leadership of John Boehner, do seem to understand this basic principle. It really is just basic politics, but on the House side, they fall off the wagon a lot. They have a really hard time adhering to this. You may recall last year when President Obama's budget came out, instead of just taking pot shots at President Obama's budget, which is what even the cheapest political consultant in the world will tell you you're supposed to do when you're in the opposition, House Republicans, for some reason at that time, decided to introduce their own alternative budget. But they hedged their bets, perhaps sensing they were doing something wrong. They refused to put any numbers in their budget. A deft compromise that allowed them to lose twice. They hurt themselves politically by publishing their own policy ideas, and they still don't look like they have any real policy ideas. Amazing. Then, trying to score a second own goal in the same game, House Republicans had their budget guy introduce what they called a blueprint of what House Republicans would do if they got back in the majority. Now, honestly, Republicans were largely saved the political consequences of that inexplicable blunder because nobody's ever heard of the congressman who put it together. Paul Ryan of Wisconsin? Anybody? The most notable press coverage Paul Ryan of Wisconsin has received in the last year is not from his budget thing, his blueprint thing. It was from what his workout routine is like. Honestly, Politico did a front page feature on Paul Ryan's amazing workout regimen. He is ripped. Thanks, Politico. But had anybody been able to pay attention to Paul Ryan for longer than it takes to say his name, for longer than one awesome P90X workout, they would have seen that this blueprint thing he put out called for, say, abolishing Medicare benefits, privatizing Social Security. Every Democrat running for Congress in the country could hold up that blueprint and run against it if they wanted to. It was a political gift for Democrats. But Democrats weren't able to cash in on it, on that opportunity, as much as they otherwise might have, because Paul Ryan is utterly anonymous, because he's not a Republican leader. He's not recognizable. He's more of a backbench Republican. Despite those early missteps, House Republicans keep not figuring this out. And now, it looks like they may have finally really stepped on the rake and knocked themselves out. They have put out the guy who would be the Republican House Speaker, John Boehner, the most recognizable Republican in Congress who is not John McCain, and they had John Boehner talk about policy at length and more and further. And again, I don't know exactly what Democrats are going to do with this. Who knows if they're going to seize this opportunity? But John Boehner, in the course of speaking with the editorial board for the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review, has essentially just offered to forfeit the midterm elections this year. Where do we begin? Okay. Asked about the Wall Street reform legislation that's now making its way through Congress, Mr. Boehner told the newspaper that the reforms go way too far. Quote, "This is killing an ant with a nuclear weapon." It's talking about the financial crisis. Just to be clear here, the thing that is the tiny, harmless ant, the thing we shouldn't be bothering with trying to do anything about is, take your pick. Here's some of our favorite visual summaries of what John Boehner is referring to as just a little ant. There's this New York Post headline from October 2008, kind of summing up the mood of the country pretty well. Economic crisis, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Then there was this front page from the San Jose Mercury News. The day the Dow had its biggest point drop ever in history. Or there's this graph, which shows the millions upon millions of jobs lost. Look at the green one there. The millions of jobs lost as a result of this whole financial crisis. What's the big deal? Why is everybody freaking out? Little ant. We need not respond to this. Maybe John Boehner isn't focused on the financial crisis anymore. We do have a much more pressing crisis going on in the United States. The BP oil disaster in the Gulf, for example, and the policy questions about what to do in response to that. Here's how he feels about that.
Have you been down there?
No, but I'm planning to.
Is a 6-month moratorium a good idea?
I don't think so. They're going to cause real havoc down there. The deep water drilling, maybe there's a reason there to pause until we know what happened.
The deep water drilling, maybe there's a reason to pause till we know what happened. That's actually what the moratorium is. It's the pausing of the deep water drilling till we know what happened. That's quite literally the policy he was asked about. So you're in favor of that, sir? You just said you're opposed to the moratorium and then explained how in favor of it you are. Do you understand what you've been asked about here?
The deep water drilling, maybe there's a reason there to pause until we know what happened. And we can make sure we can prevent it again.
Make sure we can prevent it again. That one, I don't know. I don't have any idea. Sorry.
But all of the other drilling that's going on down there, this is in the more shallow waters. There's no reason to have this moratorium.
Do you know what the moratorium is, sir? Do you know that shallow drilling, as you put it, is not actually affected by the moratorium? Not affected. What the moratorium is actually just a pause in deep water drilling, which you said you're for while explaining how against it you are. It sort of seems like you don't have any idea what this policy is, which is sort of okay if you're some random backbencher who nobody can remember except for your awesome workout routine profiled in Politico.com. But when you are one of the most recognizable Republicans in the country, who would be Speaker of the House if Republicans won the election, this is amazing. You got asked about the most debated top-of-the-agenda policy issue in the whole country right now, and you have no idea what it is. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is astonishing. In this interview, John Boehner also said he wants to raise the age at which people are eligible for Social Security.
We're all living a lot longer than anybody ever expected. And I think raising the retirement age, going out 20 years, so you're not affecting anyone close to retirement, and eventually getting the retirement age to 70 is a step that needs to be taken.
Attention all 60-year-olds, attention all 50-somethings. John Boehner wants you to know that Republicans are going to raise the retirement age on Social Security. Okay, everybody good? Don't forget to vote in November, you demographic that always votes. Every single election, every single time. You know, you can register now. Just amazing. I mean, whether it's policy, the basic understanding of what's facing the country right now, or basic politics, I mean, John Boehner's a little woolly on the political implications of what he's saying, clearly. He's a lot woolly on the basic policy of what he's talking about. Consider also this final point, what he demonstrates in this interview about his temperament. Everybody uses hyperbole in politics, right? Everybody talks a little bit over the top. I like hyperbole. I use it all the time. I talk over the top. I recognize this. I enjoy this. But consider that this is the guy who wants to be Speaker of the House. This is just one more gem from John Boehner today. The Tribune Review did not post the video of this